Welcome to my August Country Diary update. I'm going to show you my latest pages in my watercolor nature journal that I created in the month of August, mostly inspired by the marsh where I walk near my house. I really enjoy getting inspired by the seasonal changes here at the marsh, and I got to see a little muskrat the other day on my walk eating some bulrushes and found some new plants like this purple loosestrife, and I also saw a little baby deer. So these are my August Country Diary pages, and the title page is the water lily with the dragonfly and of course the lettering. And then I have my notes on the back for the days that I went walking or saw things, mostly notes about my walks at the marsh. This is the Spirea, and it has some line and wash illustrations as well, one of just the leaf and what the margins and veins look like, and then the other is an enlarged version of all the tiny little flowers that make up this fluffy spike. So it's cool to make an enlargement of these types of flowers, and I could have taken more time on this. I was kind of figuring out what technique to use to make this fluffy, so I'm pretty happy with how it worked out, though I'd probably started out a little differently next time, and just paint the individual tufts how I would with graded washes, and then lift out some more highlights, which I did end up doing in the end. It was just a bit more trial and error this time. And then this is a line and wash painting, so that means it's waterproof ink and then just a few washes of color. And this is a much quicker way to do botanical illustrations, and because I have my baby Kai, my little boy, I need to be quick about my painting sometimes. So I wanted to do more pages this month, so that's why I've done some of these. So this is bladderwort, and it grows out of the water, and it's actually a carnivorous plant, which is really neat. It's native here in British Columbia, and this is sort of an enlarged drawing of its root and bladder systems and how these little bladders suck in aquatic organisms and bugs and digests them. So very interesting. And then this is a front on of the flower, and again I did my sort of light color wash around to make those little illustrations pop. I've got my common name and Latin name here as well. This is actually not from the marsh, it's from my garden, the nasturtium. I just really love nasturtiums, and there's actually quite a few little tiny details in the ends of the flowers here with the little sort of fronds, and then I wanted to do a side view dissection of the flower as well. So I thought I would use ink because it's a lot quicker and easier to get that fine detail with ink rather than rendering it with a tiny watercolor brush. And that's another reason I've been enjoying adding some ink. And this painting I did add more washes of watercolor, so about the same amount of paint if I hadn't used ink. I just still took less time because I didn't have to render all these tiny little details with watercolor as well. So but you don't see the ink standing out quite as much because I've put in more layers of watercolor paint. And I really like this little study. This is an apple from the abandoned orchard at the marsh where I walk. It was sort of cultivated in the early 1900s before people were that worried about nature conservation. So there was at a time like a farm there and a farmhouse and an orchard and everything. So this is the apple tree remaining with the little apple on it from a photo that I took. And then I wanted to also do a blossom, so showing you a side dissection of the blossom. You can see the ovary and the filaments and anthers. And then this is a developing small apple where you'd go from a blossom, the petals would fall off, and then the fruit would grow, and you still have the sepals from the flower on here, which end up being this part on the full-grown apple. So I thought that was a neat little study. I'm really enjoying this style of study with like the portrait and then dissections or little details. And I just put Malus domestica because I don't know what type of apple this is, and unfortunately it's pretty hard to figure that out with a heirloom apple. And I think that is all for this month for my illustrations. As you can see, I haven't, it's August 31st today, so I do have a few notes to add in. I haven't made any of my notes since the 23rd. So I'll probably just end up adding notes to the last 2 pages too, just catching up. If I haven't mentioned it before, I do just voice dictate my notes onto my phone often while I'm walking, because I'll think of it while I'm walking and then I'll get in the car and go home and get distracted with my son or something else and then forget to write it in. So I'll go back and write it after from my notes. And then I am in just the next coming little while looking forward to maybe updating or adding a few pages into the earlier fall. I don't like this. Some of you may, but it just was really rushed painting it and I feel like it's kind of flat. This page, again, I mentioned I lost my cat in March, so I don't really like that page. So anyway, I'm working on adding a few new pages as well. I'll still keep the old pages to show at the end when I'm done the country diary. This is one of my new pages that I'm adding in, and it's a collection of sweet violets for March. So there's a pink, a violet, purple, and a white sweet violet, and then a little bit about them and their Latin and common names. So I thought that was a fun little study to add in that I'm working on right now. Here's a patch of lily pads I'd been admiring at the March in August, and I'm just going to show you some of the footage that I took while I painted this beautiful pale pink water lily and one of the water lily leaves for my August title page. And this is sped up just to show you some of the process I take to paint this lily. And just to summarize my technique, I use my 3-step painting method. So I put on a wet wash, then step 2 is I do veins and contour lines and any dry brushing detail, and then step 3 is adding depth and contrast. I exaggerate the contrast usually in my paintings, and I use small wet on dry graded washes with blending in step 3 to finish off my botanical paintings. And that is how I usually approach all of my botanical paintings, so that it's a system each time and I'm not overwhelmed and I know what to do and I don't stare at the paper not knowing where to start. For really pale pink flowers or yellow flowers, I like to do underpainting for step 1, which is using a very pale, soft, neutral gray to create the shadows before I paint on the pink. This way I still have a shadow and contrast to create form and a 3-dimensional look, but I don't dull or muddy down my really delicate pink color. If you would like to learn more about my 3-step painting approach and how I paint botanicals like this, you can take my free 1-hour class. This is a real-time class, so it's not sped up like this footage here. It's real-time with full instruction, step-by-step, showing you how to paint a wild rose. And you can check that out with the video link in the description below, and it is completely free to take. So I hope you enjoyed the August Country Diary update. Please follow along by subscribing to my channel, and you can check out the link to the playlist to see all the other update videos as well if you haven't seen them starting from January. And I will see you in my next video.